Hello everybody. Now I'm going to discuss the issues related to communication skills and teaching. How communication skills play a major role in making teaching, learning and evaluation very effective. Teaching is all about communication. When it comes to the understanding and the word of communication, we define communication as a process of sharing a message from one person to another person, from sender to the receiver, from speaker to the listener, from writer to the reader, from encoder to the decoder. There is a message, and the message is to be communicated properly from one end to the another end. So what happens in teaching? In teaching, the process of communication is what the teacher wants to convey should be properly conveyed to the student. What the teacher intends to discuss should be properly communicated to the student group. So obviously, a good teacher should be a good communicator. The best teachers now we are talking about are the best communicators. So what makes communication very effective? What are the important components of communication? Let's discuss in this particular session how communication skills affect the teaching and learning process. Friends, you know, communication skills include speaking skills, writing skills, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, and largely it also includes a kind of a personality development. That's why in some of the universities there is a paper called Personality Development and Communication Skills, because both are interconnected. Before we go to understand how to make communication very effective and interesting, we should also understand what affects the good communication. Sometimes there are barriers to communication. We must understand these barriers to communication if we want to become the best communicator. What are these barriers? Sometimes, communication does not happen properly when there is no common frame of reference. What is this common frame of reference? A teacher should know what he or she is going to teach, whom she is going to teach, and how. So, what, whom, how, sometimes when is also a matter. Timing of most of the time what happens, if there is no common frame of reference, it means that we must know what we are going to teach before entering the classroom. So today I am going to talk about the communication skills and teaching. It means that I must have an idea of what is communication, what is skills, what is teaching. I should also have an idea that whom I am going to teach, the class of people, the number of people, who are my listeners, whether my listeners are of my age, whether my listeners are young ones, whether my listeners are you know, amateurs. Obviously, we must know that. And at the same time, there must be proper information given to the, listeners, that the topic of discussion should be given quite early. So, a good communicator should not deviate from the common frame of reference. Say, I am discussing Shakespeare's tragedy, means I should discuss Shakespeare's tragedy. I should not be talking about my personal life. I should not be talking about my excursions and all that. People get lost themselves in other, stories. So a good teacher or a good communicator always try to stick to the topic of discussion. That's what we call. In case we deviate ourselves, there is a failure of communication. We are not able to reach the goal. So for every teaching we require this kind of common frame of reference. And the second thing is prejudgment. Most of the teachers either come with prejudgment, and most of us decide that this batch is not good, this batch is very good, the other batch is average. We come with this kind of prejudgment. Prejudgment is not good in such circumstances. We must go with open mind. At the same time, students also have this kind of a notion that teacher A is good, teacher B is not good, teacher C is like this, like that. So this will affect the very mood of communication. So prejudgment is one of the barriers to communication, and one should not have this kind of preconceived notion or prejudgment on anybody. And lack of interest sometimes. People probably, most of us complain that children are not interested. We complain that the present generation is losing interest in education. We complain that we are very much serious and they are not serious. Interest is the matter that affects both the speaker and the listener. Teacher should also be very much interested in what he or she is going to do. We should have deep knowledge. We should have respect, love for the subject, and interest in teaching. So interest plays a major role both for sender and the receiver. So obviously this is also one of the barrier. Lack of interest is one of the important barriers to communication. So creating interest should be one of the challenges, and at the same time we should take it happily and try to create interest among the students by using technologies, by telling them stories, by giving them practical knowledge, by attaching the subject with the present situation, by trying to drag their attention with various techniques. This is very, very important. And one more important aspect that hinders good communication is lack of listening. Again, this is a very important field today, and there is again a complaint that the modern people hardly listen, because listening is a major input. A good listener becomes a great speaker, and listening plays a major role. And obviously one should understand that listening level of the students should be enhanced by making classroom very, very interesting. You know very well that sometimes morning classes are different from post-lunch sessions. So if it is a post-lunch session, you must give them activity-based teaching. If it is a morning session, if they are very, very fresh, you can begin with a story, or you can begin with some interesting anecdote. and start your class and make class rather interesting by using charts, diagrams, always keeping them busy and giving them some interesting examples. So naturally, they begin to give attention to your teaching and they begin to listen to you properly. So you must also understand the body language of the students, whether they are properly listening or not. If they are not properly listening, we should ask two questions: whether it is the fault with the teacher or fault with the students. In both the cases, teacher has to take measure. And obviously, listening plays a major role. And we should try to convince them that listening is a very, very important process. And this is a great input device where knowledge, accumulation is possible. So there are other factors also, psychological factors, physiological problems. All these things naturally this creates an effect on teaching, and in such instances we are supposed to develop a different kind of interest among the students. So if it is a matter of psychological problems, of course we cannot solve it. It's a matter to be solved by a psychologist. If it's a matter of a physiological problem, it's again the problem related to doctors' clinical issue. But there are issues like creating interest, creating atmosphere for learning, or a kind of respect for teacher, respect for students is created in the classroom by the best and committed teacher. So these are some of the issues related to barriers to communication, and at the same time how to solve these problems. And next important thing we should understand is types of communication. There are two types of communication. One, verbal communication, another non-verbal communication. Verbal communication. What is this verbal communication? Verbal communication includes two important aspects. Number one, spoken communication, because speech comes first. Number two, written communication. So whatever writing that happens today, we talk about literature and all that, whatever that is in words, whatever that is in the form of sentences is called written communication. Oral communication has lot of modes. Okay. And the other one is non-verbal communication. What is this non-verbal communication? Non-verbal communication is a chunk of all the things which includes gestures, postures, body language, and variety of use of body features like postures, gestures, pointers, which contribute to major portion of communication. It is said in one of the books written by Alan Pease, he says that 65% of the communication happens through non-verbal communication, and 35% of the message is conveyed through verbal communication, that includes oral and spoken. So in this way, we must understand that a good teacher has to make use of both the types of communication, try to negotiate between the two, and try to present himself or herself the best tools possible. So that's why communication skills play a very, very major role in teaching. So in this particular session we have discussed what is communication, and what are the barriers to communication and how to overcome these barriers, and we also discussed what are the types of communication. In the next session, I'm going to talk about use of body language in teaching. For now, we close this the day. Thank you.